Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 1 of Interviewing with Isaac, the series where I interview your favorite Isaac content creators. Today, I'm joined by SacredHearts. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm SacredHearts. You can call me Sacred or Hearts or Puppy if you really are feeling it that way. I make a lot of very educational Isaac content. I also stream most weekdays, and then I started a series recently that I'm going to kind of start bringing in creators on for myself as well, called Isaac Underexplained, where we play an Isaac run together, and we're not allowed to talk about Isaac at all. And if we do, chat calls us L streamers and shames us eternally.
Of course, yeah. It's very opposite of what we're doing today, right? Where, talking about mostly Isaac and then going to not talking about it all. But yeah, I know that I watched your first installment of that. I really enjoyed kind of sitting down and just getting your perspective on just different topics. I was mostly a lurker in that one, but I'm definitely going to try to catch one in the future so that I can bug you with non-Isaac questions that you have to answer. So in kind of Isaac podcasty fashion, we'll start with a few kind of in-depth Isaac questions. Of course, we're going to hit on the big ones like favorite items and favorite character stuff later during a lightning round. But I figured that we get a little more specific with some of the questions as to not do the same thing that every Isaac content creator answers during stream every day. So I guess a good one to start with is, when did you start playing Isaac?
So I originally bought Afterbirth Plus in 2015, but I only got about 30 to 40 hours in before I just silly shoed my way into frustration because I was a child at the time. I picked it back up in 2021 after watching some Sinvicta and some intervention from a partner at the time.
Yeah, for sure. And a follow-up question I have is kind of what's some of the Isaac content creators that you've been watching. I know for me, you're on that list as well. I know like Huts and Lazy Mapman kind of fall into my suggested, but who are the Isaac content creators that you usually take time to watch, if any?
You'll catch me lurking in like Vicfus's chat or another Matt's chat, or occasionally Bambochuda's chat, and then a couple small Isaac streamers that I just have like some ties with who I can mention by name. There's RoboFern, who is a Tainted Eden streaker, and one of the craziest streakers I've ever. Yeah, I think he hit like 238 with Tainted Eden at one point,
man.
which was astonishing because that character is frustrating as all hell sometimes. And then a couple other people that I just really enjoy are NeanTuber, and I've watched Huts and Northern Lion back in the day.
Right, for sure. Yeah, Huts occasionally shows up in my suggested. I know me and my wife will watch his YouTube videos from time to time. But yeah, good to hear. I'm sure especially some of the smaller creators are going to be happy to hear those shout outs and everything from you for sure. And I know that a lot of creators are very appreciative of that. In a question that I often ask most Isaac players, so I know for us, we're both Dead God players. We both invested a unhealthy amount of time into this video game. Do you remember how long it took you to complete your first Dead God?
847 hours. I know because my Switch tracked it.
Yeah.
So my first file was on my Switch, completely unmodded, which I think gives me a bit of a unique perspective when I teach the game a little bit, because so many people are like, how do I play this game without mods? And I'm just like, you learn. You just learn and you learn and you learn. And I think 847 hours is kind of on the slower side, honestly, but I think that is important as well.
Yeah, so with you getting Dead God on a console, how was playing Tainted Cain? What was that experience like?
So I played it after the second round of nerfs, when you could still kind of use Platinum God to like put your seed in and like kind of get the recipes. So I played it with my partner next to me on the couch at the time, and we would just she would like dig for certain recipes while I was playing it. But I played an unmodded version of it after the patch was released as well, and playing it on vibes is kind of fun too, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, for sure. I have
though I hate Cain with the ID.
I have a friend who plays on console, and he went on like a 20-minute rant about how much he hated playing Tainted Cain on console, just because he would watch my streams or go watch like other content and see that everyone had these recipe lists. He's like, I can't access any of that. I was like, yeah, it's a mod that you only can access on PC. And I remember just like watching his expression just deflate, because he's like, man, I gotta learn this all on my own. But yeah, it's funny to just think about post nerf, like after recipe Cain, and just how different of a character he is for sure. So with you mentioning that you create, educational content and mentioning like both of us being Dead God players, what advice do you have for players like trying to achieve Dead God? Like, it's like, I know it's difficult, but what would be like one thing that you would tell all players, like, hey, this is one of the best things you can do to try to get 100% in the game?
Be willing to take breaks, honestly. I think that when I was originally struggling through Dead God, I would get frustrated and then continue playing, and I think that is a disservice to yourself a lot of the time. There are going to be times when your frustration makes the game 2 to 3 times harder because you're just angry, you're not thinking straight. And just remember, it's okay, it's a game. You can come back to it whenever you want. Isaac is one of those games that will always be there because there's no servers, there's nothing going on. So it's just take your time. Isaac is a game that requires a lot of time, investment, and things of that sort. So give it the time, give it the respect that sometimes it requires.
Yeah, especially for your more difficult characters, right? Your Tainted Lost, your Tainted Jacobs, your Tainted Edens, where those characters are built to be infuriating, right? That's their design. I definitely agree that sitting down for a 6-hour Isaac stint is great and all, but and I'm sure you've experienced it on stream before, where you're investing like 3-4 hours into a stream, and it gets to a point where you're like, man, these runs are just hitting me in a way that I am not enjoying this anymore. And I've cut streams short because of that. Like, I'll get like 2 hours into a stream, be like, I gotta stop, guys. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not feeling it today.
So my second Dead God, I have a story. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
It was based in Fiend Folio. My second Dead God was almost entirely played in Fiend Folio. And it's a very difficult mod for the people who don't know. It makes the game, I'd say, like anywhere between 3 and 5 times harder depending on the character. But when I got to Tainted Lost and Tainted Keeper, funny enough, was like extremely difficult along with Tainted Lost. I would just get double tapped in a room constantly because, for those who don't know, a lot of things can either climb on top of the rocks in Fiend Folio, or they just have Spectral, which for those 2 characters is aggravating to such an extent that I have cried on stream before. I definitely cut it short as well, where I was like, all right, I'm an hour and a half into stream and I'm just in misery and I want to go eat some food or do something besides this.
Yeah, I've had some pretty monumental crash outs with Tainted Lost. A few streams like a few weeks ago, like I think I saved some of the clips, but man, like, and I played it up a little bit for entertainment, but like part of me was like, this is a genuine reaction. Like, I was like jumping out of my chair and not quite throwing things, but like lifting my chair a few inches off the ground because I'm like, I'm about to kill my monitor. Like, it's just, I definitely know the feeling for sure. So kind of still on the same vein of kind of like your knowledge with Isaac, what would you say is your biggest hot take? What's something that you would walk into a room full of Isaac fans and they would start pulling out torches and pitchforks because of this opinion?
Curse of the Tower is good and actually great.
Okay, all right.
First of all, it teaches you to dodge troll bombs. That is a very important skill in Isaac. And when there are 6 troll bombs spawned every time you get hit, you're gonna frickin' learn or you're gonna die.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's the former. But second of all, if you're going to get hit in a room, it clears the room for you. If you can avoid the hit from the bombs itself, it will clear the entire room for you, and that's fantastic. And third and all, which is fantastic, is there are so many synergies with it. It synergizes with every single bomb effect. It synergizes with safety scissors incredibly well. It synergizes with that red active that gives you 5 bombs when you pick it up from the shop.
Remote detonator.
Yeah, remote detonator. It synergizes with that as well. Fucking nuts item. Raw. Next question.
I definitely see that, and like for me, I like Anarchist Cookbook. I think a lot more than most people do because it gives you the Curse of the Tower effect without having to take damage.
Sure.
But yeah, I know a lot of people have issues with like on damage effects and stuff like that, especially like your Tainted Lost players who are like, I'm never gonna use this. Like, this item is never gonna come up. But yeah, I don't think I've ever heard somebody genuinely have the opinion that Curse of the Tower is a good item. I like that. That's the first one for me. Yeah, because yeah, I don't blame you either. I know, like, my medium take is I think some first floor bosses have too much health. like Little Horn especially. Man, I hate fighting Little Horn without a tears or damage up, man. Like that, it is a slog on floor 1.
It's pretty cool. I've gotten to the point in my Isaac career where I get excited when I see pink haunt on the first floor, because I know if I have one bomb in my inventory, I handle the 2 haunts, and then I just bomb her once and she's dead.
Yep.
That's the entire fight.
That's how I feel anytime I'm seeing like Duke of Flies or anything like that, where I'm just like, yes, this is gonna be a 10-second boss fight. It's gonna be great, and I can just move on, go next.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I like that one a lot. I think that one that's definitely a first for me. And then keeping on the train of items, what item do you think needs to be buffed and why? I know this is a pretty common Isaac creator question.
Buff IBS. I don't think you have to change the effect of the item at all, except for it needs a visual indicator that you're about to pick up a poop.
Okay.
That's the only change I think it needs. I think it would be a fine item. I don't think it'd be a good item. I think it'd be a bad item, but I think it would be less miserable. The fact that sometimes your entire offense is interrupted with no visual indicator giving you even a remote warning, I think is really the issue. I think if they gave you half a second or a second worth of warning, that item would be fine.
Right.
You'd be able to plan way better.
Yeah, I think because that's the biggest frustration, right? Is where you're shooting a specific enemy, sometimes you rely on your knockback from your tears, right, in order to escape an enemy, and all of a sudden you go to shoot, and then you're holding something, and it's like, well, now I don't have the knockback available anymore. So yeah, I definitely see that. IBS is just one of those items that I pick up so infrequently that until you started talking about it, I completely forgot what that item did.
Yeah, you just don't think about it, honestly. It's so far removed from your brain. It's like number 2 a lot of the time. I think number 2 has more use cases because it is infinite bombs in a pinch.
Yeah.
But IBS, it doesn't even have anything niche like that unless you're just like, yeah, I have petrified poop and I guess I need more poops to pop.
Yeah.
But that's it.
It's funny, like IBS reminds me a lot of Tainted Blue Baby too, which is like that similar effect where it's very, on use case and very, niche. It's not something where it's like, although I did do a Tainted Blue Baby run on greedier mode the other day, and man, that character is so strong in that game mode.
It's deeply strong, and it's weird how dichotomous its relationship is with the game mode. So it's like in regular Isaac, horrible, miserable, you're out of bombs all the time.
Yeah.
In good mode, it's just like, I'm reveling in the poop.
Yeah. That's how I feel with like even Lilith. 'Cause I like Lilith as a character a lot of the time. She's kind of like a middle of the ground character where I enjoy playing her, but for newer players she can be more difficult. But it's just like Box of Friends and Greed mode, man, where you just have a wall of tears the whole time is just phenomenal. So it's just it's funny how you have those like characters that are great in one game mode, but just not so much in others. It's funny how this game works like that.
Oh yeah.
But all right, let's take a quick break from the Isaac related questions and move a little more into content. So I've seen that you've created some content that's outside of Isaac as well. I think how a stuffed animal became a trans icon, or stuffed shark became a trans icon. I loved that video. It was just hilarious going through, especially like the pronunciation section where you're like looking up like pirate videos. It's just, that was really good.
Yeah, I need to go back and fix the audio on that because I think that's the only thing wrong with that video. But fun fact, I made that for a job. I worked for the Public Health Institute for a little while. Okay. Which is a national organization and getting deeply defunded right now, but that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, right.
But I made that because they were like, we're going to do fun fact things. And I was like, you know what? This is the funnest fact I know. So I just went for it.
I love that. That's great. So yeah, I guess the follow-up for that is what is your process with like brainstorming content? I know you mentioned with that one that was related to a job, but even when creating Isaac and non-Isaac related content, what kind of comes to mind where like, okay, this is the process I'm going to go through, these are the ideas that are going to come up? How do you usually approach that situation?
Most of my inspiration comes from the real world. Oftentimes when I'm doing a completely unrelated to Isaac thing, I'll be like, oh yeah, I could totally link those things because my brain's just freewheeling it. So often when I'm like doing random chores, consuming other media, things of that sort, like specifically music, I often have a lot of ideas around music. For example, I've been working on a rendition of Chapel Roan's Red Wine Supernova with Balatro references with a friend of mine who's a music producer.
That's awesome.
Which is just like supremely niche, but so fun. And then I'm also like, Dochi is a rap artist that I really like who put out Denial as a River recently. And she's got a line that goes, I like pills, I like drugs, and I'm making an Isaac edit where it's like, I like pills, I like pills, I like pills, I like pills. And it's just like all sorts of random stuff like that. But there's a lot of that. But there's also like suggestions from chat, which is where the Isaac Underexplained comes from. It's from a viewer of mine by the name of Zeke. Zeke Vika Buinu, if I pronounced that right. Zeke, please let me know in the comments if I didn't. But for that reason, I have a channel in my Discord dedicated to video ideas. And I think that's really important because like I'm not going to be able to think of every great idea in the world, but if you get the collective conscious of chat helping you along, it really changes the world.
So like I know as streamers and like content creators, one of the biggest things you run into with chatters and commenters is sometimes you start to lean on that side of toxicity, right? Where you just have some real mean people that show up and that just are just mean spirited from the get-go. How do you usually like approach your interactions with like toxic chatters and toxic commenters?
So I was thinking about this when you gave me this question the other day, and I was like, I think I have like 3 general ideas for how I handle these people. One, I ignore it. Especially if it's like a comment on a video. I don't really care about comments on a video. That I'm just like, great, that helps out the algorithm. Fantastic. You did this for me. I appreciate it. And that's what I try to take away from that. But if I'm in a stream situation, it's a little bit different in how I can handle that because it directly affects the people in the chat with them. And it really depends on how I handle it depends on where I think the person's coming from. So I can either be empathetic or laugh it off. For being empathetic, this is kind of how I respond to somebody who seems to not necessarily know that they're bringing something toxic into chat with them. I had someone the other day ask me, and you can censor this name if you want to, because it's a hot button topic. Asked me what I thought of Jordan Peterson, who, if you don't know who that is, it's a whole can of worms. I'm not going to get into it, but I was just like, hey, I don't like that person. I don't agree with their opinions. I don't agree with their worldview. Do you understand why, or do you just not know what this person's like outside of the limited interaction you've had with them? And they were like, I don't know anything about this person. And I was like, you should learn more about this person before you say like, hey, I recommend this creator. And they took that and they handled it really well, and they were like, okay, I'm gonna go do some research. I'll be back in a few days and let you know what I find. And I was like, fantastic, that sounds wonderful, thank you for doing that. So those situations, those are much more rare, I admit, but they come up every so often, and it's really fantastic when I can kind of help somebody learn why I don't agree with them, rather than just being like, hey, I hate that you said this thing. But laughing it off comes up more when I'm dealing with people who are toxic for the reason that they know it is toxic and they're doing it on purpose. I have people come in every once in a while who will call me slurs or say like, what is this stupid game for children? And I can't help but laugh because it's just utterly ridiculous. I come from a fairly tough background. I think you were in my Underexplained stream the other day. You might have heard that video. And so I've got this kind of uncanny ability to laugh in the face of danger. Or in the face of uncomfortability, or in the face of stress. And so I'll just laugh at them, or not laugh at them, but like laugh at the situation. I don't want to say I'm laughing at them, because it's really not like I'm just like, that's a crazy thought, and I'll just like, I don't want to see this person anymore, and they'll be banned, and I won't have to deal with them anymore, and neither will my community. And it's pretty easy. I haven't had anybody like need to be IP banned from chat yet, so that's I'm very thankful for that, because I know that can become an issue for people where they'll just like see repeat offenders. But I think because I so minimally engage with the person when they initially come in, there's nothing for them to grasp onto and come back for. If that makes any sense.
No, for sure. For me personally, I think the only time, like, I I think a lot of creators are very similar in like the ignoring side of things, where it's just kind of like, hey, I'm not even going to engage. I think the only time that I've ever personally like really got upset with somebody was I was streaming with my wife and they were insulting her and bringing her into it. And the thing is, like, it at the end of the day, like it's primarily like my channel, so it's like I know that I deal with the toxicity with like the commenters and chatters, so I know that I can handle it. But I know that not everybody who I bring on as a guest can, whether it be my wife or another creator or anything like that. So I find myself more often just kind of defending the people that I'm playing with, and very rarely ever defending myself with it, because I know, like, for me, it's like I know who I am as a person, I know my values, I know all that stuff, but I also know that I will never want to sit here and let other people get hurt. And more often than not, that usually just means me banning that person almost immediately. And usually my response a lot of the time is, oh, so that's how you're gonna start your first message in chat. Like, that's a great conversation, and then that usually leads to a ban. But no, I definitely agree with like the just ignoring, especially when it's blatantly toxic, right? When they're going out of your way to try to get a rise out of you, is usually the best way to be like, hey, I'm not even gonna engage, not even a little bit. For sure.
I have an unspoken rule where I'm just like, you can make fun of me, that's fine. If it's funny, feel free to make fun of me. But as soon as you make fun of my chat or the people around me, you're gone. Yeah. Like, you're Thanos snapped.
Exactly. And I mean, that's the exact same way that I am, is I know that I'm there to be an entertainer. And sometimes like leaning into those jabs sometimes can be an aspect of that entertainment, right? You have, people like Ludwig, right, who have like almost made a career out of that, of just like their chat just being blatantly mean to them, and then and him kind of responding for entertainment value. Yeah, never other people, right? That's never especially when it's a guest on a channel. It's never should be the way to go. And then kind of continue with like the commenters and chatters, and I know this characteristic and this trait isn't inherently toxic, but how do you feel with like backseat gamers, like people in your chat that are like, hey, you're playing the game wrong, or why aren't you doing this, the whole like streamer do this, streamer do that kind of mentality? How do you usually feel about that and respond a lot of the time?
So I get that a lot less than I used to. So originally when I started content creating, I was a Bloons content creator, for context.
Okay, yeah.
Which, if you don't know that game series, it's made for children between the ages of realistically 8 and like 14. Mm-hmm. And the backseating in that community, insane.
Yeah.
So I think I'm so used to the extreme backseating in that community that it doesn't even faze me when I get like minor Isaac backseating. Mm-hmm. But I think part of the reason I don't get a ton of backseating is I'm just really goddamn good at the game.
Hell yeah.
And when people are actually backseating me, or like usually more people are more asking questions about why I'm doing something than they are actively backseating me. And so sometimes when I think somebody's backseating, I just take a breath and I reevaluate the thing, and I'm just like, oh, they were just asking the question more often than that. But when I have had to deal with backseaters in the past, I'm just like, I think I'm more on the ignore spectrum, where I'm just like, they're gonna play the game however they want to, and I typically am like, the wonderful thing about Isaac is that people play it an enormous amount of ways, and so I'll talk about that if somebody's like actively backseating me, and I'll be like, this is a wonderful game because I can play it how I want, and you can play it how you want, and you can suggest things to me, but I'm not going to always do the thing that you want me to do, and you have to recognize that as my viewer. And usually that works out well. Somebody's been rude about it once, and I was just like, okay, well, I just won't engage with you anymore. Yeah. Have a nice day.
I honestly, like, I don't mind it. For me, like, personally, I sometimes even enjoy it, where I very much take that mentality of like, okay, I'm gonna explain why I'm doing something from my perspective, because again, I have 2,000 plus hours in this game. If I'm doing something, it's probably for a reason, right? I'm not just like, sometimes I'll autopilot or I'll zone out while I'm like, that's why we with players that still have 2,000-3,000 hours, that's why we still run into spikes and red booms as we're walking into new rooms, right? Like, nobody will ever break that habit. I promise you can put 10,000 hours in this game and you will still do that. But it's that same thing where it's like, I welcome it, because sometimes it even is like a good check, right? Where somebody will ask a question, you're like, okay, yeah, why am I doing this? Because it's like, it's become so second nature. It's like, now I can vocalize it and like, put it into actual words. It's like, oh, I'm doing this because I know that I could get coins out of it, or I'm doing this because I know I can get charge on an active item that lets me reroll a secret room. Like, it's those small things where it's like, okay, this is why I'm doing it. It helps me think through it personally, and it just helps me kind of articulate that with other players for sure. But I've been lucky enough that I haven't had anyone be too mean about it. Yeah, I definitely know where you're coming from with that for sure. So I believe I was looking on your channel, the most viewed video I believe you have is, oh, what was it? It was a short. I know it's a short, and I'm blanking on the name of it off the top of my head.
Here, I got it.
Oh, you got it? Perfect.
The best Isaac seeds.
Yes. So how do you feel about like the outcome of that video? Because I'm pretty sure that I saw that video back when it released in like 2023, I think was when you released it. So I remember seeing it all the way back then. Is it still kind of hold up with the rest of the videos that you've released more recently? Do you feel like it kind of helps springboard you into the kind of content that you're running with today? How did that video impact you as a creator?
Funny enough, I don't think it actually changed anything because it's not really easy to do content of that variety very frequently.
Right.
It's very research heavy. It also ends up with a lot of people just like mad in my comments, which doesn't make me want to do more of it. Because people are like, you didn't find these seeds, you just looked at the wiki. And I'm like, what does find mean to people, frankly? Yep. I'm just like, not everybody knows these things. Not everybody knows to go to the wiki. Like, I'm just using simpler language so I can fit this into a minute. Because YouTube Shorts didn't have 3-minute long videos back then. Yep. Like, give me a bone, come on. But yeah, it's funny. Because that one still gets like 70 or 80,000 views a month.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't understand it, frankly, because it's a fine video. I like it. I think I did good work on it, but I don't think it's the best video I've ever made. And I think some of the best videos I've ever made are actually just tiny compared to that. It's just really funny seeing the difference. And it's like I continue making content, but sometimes the things you never expect to go viral just get real big.
That was actually going to be my follow-up, or I have a follow-up question here in a moment, but no, it's funny that you were talking about like the finding thing where it's like, no, you sat there for 12 hours typing in different eight letter number codes to try to find the specific ones. But I have that happen too because a lot of the content that I create is like interesting item interactions, right? Where just like items that just have weird interactions with the game or like other items. And I'll implement it, and a majority of my comments tend to be like, oh, but like, what about this item interaction with this? And it's like, okay, you got to understand, I only have so much time to fit this information into a short to keep it digestible. Because even then, if you end up uploading like a 3-minute short, there's no guarantee people are going to watch that whole thing, right?
No, 3 minutes is so long.
Especially with like YouTube shorts. Like I get like 3 minutes on TikTok's nothing, but you have like 3 minutes on YouTube shorts. It's like, you want to keep it 60 to 90 seconds. Anything over that, you're gonna have like that retention like rate. The analytic is just dives. Yeah, it plummets. So it makes me laugh that we kind of have that same experience with creating like the, hey, here's some cool information about the game kind of content.
No, it's just funny. Like that one and my Rock Facts one, which are like the Rock Facts one took me literally days to make.
Yep.
And it's just like, and it's so funny, like the amount of research that you have to put in, and people are like, you didn't find. So I'm like, research is finding something, people. Yep. If it's new to me, I found it, right? That's how we use it colloquially. Anyway, I have many feelings about that.
Yeah, I am in the same boat with you. Where just like more often than not, you just hit those points where it's like, oh, but like, creator, what about this? And it's like, yes, I understand, and if you want me to create a part 2, like throw that in the comments and I can. It's just, there's so much to this game. This is such a big game, right? I mean, most people take at minimum 500 hours to 100%, right? And that's being generous. And that does include all the interactions and the synergies, right? That's why creators like Chaos, I don't know if you're familiar with their content, a lot of it's like just talking about synergies, right? And like synergies that their chat and their viewers suggest. And they're pumping out daily videos and daily shorts all the time. Like Chaos is insane. I don't know how they do it, but
and he's streaming every day.
Yeah, like the amount of time and dedication that guy has to Isaac is unreal. It's inspirational, honestly. But it's that same thing where there are so many synergies and options that I don't think Chaos is ever gonna run out of content. Right? He could be creating the same shorts 5 years from now, and he'll still be finding new synergies in the game. It's just because that's what we do every day, with Isaac. Especially, it's interesting to look at just how in depth that you can be with this game, and how, because of it, we get our niche with educational content because of that. So.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how much you can really break everything down to. Like, you can do Chaos where you're doing like specific synergies, which are a little bit more like highbrow, or you could even do something as simple as like, this is how an AWAS rune works.
Yeah.
This is what happens if you do it on a decoration tile. This is what happens if you do it on a normal tile. Here's another weird interaction you didn't know about it. And it's like you could literally talk about one single aspect of this game forever, every single day, and you could do some amazing things with that. It's really cool.
I mean, and this game's been out for like 10 years at this point, at least Rebirth. Or is it Wrath of the Lamb that came out 10 years ago?
I think Rebirth came out 10 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, so Rebirth, a decade-old game, and the secret rooms have been pretty much the same since it came out. And I have people that still come into my chat to this day that ask, hey, how do you find secret rooms? And it's like that. It just makes me laugh that this game is still finding new players, or still people that have been playing it for a while that still might not know some of those more specific stuff. And it's like creating videos and telling people how to find secret rooms or super secret rooms or ultra secret rooms, and it's so funny that those little details are still things people ask about to this day.
Yeah. I was in Rome's chat. Do you know Rome?
Yeah. Yep.
So I was in his chat today and we were talking, and he was saying that he's going to make like how to play Blue Baby content because people have just been asking him in his comments all the time. And I think it's like, yeah, you really, like, we forget sometimes as like longtime players how inaccessible Isaac can be. And it's just like, even something that we take for granted, like playing Blue Baby, one of what I consider one of the stronger characters in Isaac, is fairly difficult.
Yeah.
And it's just really, it's incredible. This game keeps me coming back because I will never find the stopping point in the game. There is no stopping point. That's what's incredible about it.
And I know, and we'll get to a question later about like favorite character, but I know that you and I had a conversation about in your chat about like Isaac mains, and how because the way that I play the game is that I'm constantly like looking to achieve like my next dead god, right? Like I like the 100%ing aspect. I'm an achievement hunter at heart, right? So like this game is perfect for me. And it's interesting to me that like I have to learn to play every single character, and I have to dedicate time to getting good at every character. So I never really consider myself to have a main. Like I have a favorite character, but there's never a character that I load into the game. It's like I'm gonna do 10 runs of Blue Baby, right? That's not something that crosses my mind. But it's super interesting that people attach themselves like almost emotionally to characters in this game. And go like, oh, this character is the best for like this reason. I'll play 100 runs of them before I even touch another character. And I remember like when my wife first started playing, she gravitated towards Azazel so much because it's just such a new player friendly character. So that quickly became one of her favorite characters. So, but then she started really learning the game. And now I'm pretty sure like Isaac's become her favorite character now because she's like, oh, I can reroll items, and she's like, I can. If I run into something that I don't really want, or if I run into a secret room item, I know that I can get charged to like reroll. And it's so funny like seeing her 3 years ago when she started playing compared to now, and how different her mentality is. And just as you play the game, like how much that evolves and develops. It just always makes me laugh that, like you mentioned earlier, that there's so many different ways to play this game. And that's part of what it makes it so much fun to come back to. Is you have some people that only hop on Isaac to do the daily run, and that's it. Like that's just like a crazy thing to think about.
That's diabolical to me. I'm like, that is a special level of insanity. I respect it. You're great people. I'm sure, at least. But like, only the daily run is insane.
Yeah. And I think for me, like I barely touch dailies. I think the only time that I ever did was getting the Dead God achievements for it, right? Just like the daily runs for, I think, what, Broken Modem, Cracked Crown, and what was the other one?
The 2 pills you get from dedication.
Yeah. So it's just that I think that's the last time I've done a daily. I haven't even done the dailies on my second save file yet, right? Like that. It's never something where I boot into the game and think about it. And then a lot of the time it's like I'll be driving to work. It's like, oh shit, I still need to do those. Like it's just it's so funny how that comes up. But yeah, it's just this game is so big and there's so many ways to play it. I think that's what I love about it so much.
Only the best cost per wear of any game I've ever had.
Yeah, 100%. Like I think I've purchased this game. Oh god, 4 times. I think I purchased it on Xbox when I first started playing. I purchased it on PC for myself. I bought it for my wife, and then I bought it on Switch so that I just had it whenever I was traveling. Because I do have a Steam Deck, and I played it once on my Steam Deck, and then it corrupted my save file. So I lost probably 20 hours of in-game, like just playtime. So I pretty much vowed like never again. I was never gonna play Isaac on the Steam Deck again. And so I got the I got the Switch for it for my mobile access. But I think it's also funny because we talked about it in chat before. Is we have the experience of both console and PC players.
Yes.
With Isaac, and I'm sure that a lot of creators do because like everyone starts with Isaac somewhere. But it's interesting that you'll have some people that only have strictly played on a single platform, and I think it helps us a lot, especially as educational creators, because we know what a person's experience by being on console or a controller player even, right? Like because you can play with controller on PC. And it's just it's interesting to have that dynamic. And I know you even talked earlier just like trying to keep it vague enough with your content to be able to be like, hey, this is going to be applicable for people that have the external item descriptor mod and the people who don't, right?
Yeah, I have 2 different Tainted Cane guides, one for those who don't have it and one for those who do, because I was like, if somebody's on Switch or if they're on console or if they're on Xbox or whatever, they're not going to make heads or tails of the CIG. It means nothing to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and because it's interesting. Like even I guess my next question, because I have something I'll add to it, but like when we're talking about like different platforms, different games, do you play anything else aside from Isaac, or is that kind of your primary?
I play a lot of games actually.
Okay.
I have a list. My list of favorites on Steam is they're very roguelike heavy. I'm gonna put that out there. Got Balatro, we've got Isaac, we've got Borderlands 3, which is my own, like, Borderlands is my only shooter series. I grew up on Borderlands 2, I really enjoy it. I'm excited for 4 coming out later this year. I have Dark Souls up there just because my friend has been teaching me Dark Souls, and it's a lot. It's a lot, but I'm getting into it. It's fun. It's the original Dark Souls. I'm like trying to go from I didn't do Demon Souls, but I'm going from the roots to eventually getting to Elder Scrolls and things like that. Then we've got Dungeons and Degenerate Gamblers, which is a very good little roguelike. It's based on blackjack. It's like Balatro, except it's based on blackjack rather than Texas Hold'em rules. Hades 2, Hollow Knight.
That's a good one.
Magic Craft is like a roguelike by a Chinese developer, where it's if you know the Noida, it's like Noida with Isaac's perspective, which very, very visually makes a lot of sense to me, so that's really fun. Rounds, which is a roguelike you can play with friends.
Yes, I've seen gameplay of that one. That one looks like a blast.
It's super fun. I've got Shogun Showdown, which is another roguelike. And then I've got Slay the Spire and Tabletop Simulator. Those are my like favorite games, but I've also got like Baldur's Gate and Pal World when I was into that for a little bit. There's so many games. I played Fez when that came out. I got Okami that I've been playing recently, Outer Wilds. Like I just love games. I grew up on them. I grew up playing Pokemon a lot. So I'll still play ROM hacks of that every once in a while. And yeah, I just cover my bases.
Are you
for real-time strategy?
Yep. Are you a Poker Rogue player at all? Since you enjoy the roguelikes and Pokemon?
I've been enjoying Inclement Emerald, Radical Red. Poker Rogue doesn't do it for me. I think the grind is too heavy for me.
Yeah. You say that as an Isaac player, that makes me laugh.
The funny thing is Isaac never feels like a grind to me because each run feels so independent. Whereas Poker Rogue, everything's tied so intricately, it doesn't mesh in a way that feels satisfying to do a run a lot of the time.
Yeah.
At least in the early parts of the run or the file, of that sort.
Yeah, I know. My old streaming partner, Zesty Orange, he actually, when I first started Absolutely Scripted, it was like a co-hosted kind of thing. He's my college roommate for 2 years. But he grew up playing like competitive Pokemon and stuff like that, so he's been loving Pokerogue. Shout out to Zesty. He was also the best man at my wedding, so just a good all-around person. But I know he loves that game to death. But for me, like, I was the kid who played Pokemon where all my Pokemon had 4 attacking moves, and I never did like the strategy side of things, where it's like I wasn't using like Leer or Growl or Swords Dance or anything like that. It was always like, hey, this close combat does damage, and so I'm just gonna spam close combat the whole time. Yeah,
Definitely was more good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so you mentioned pretty roguelike heavy. Do you ever? I've seen like some. I think I mentioned you have content that isn't necessarily Isaac related, but would you say that? Do you ever plan on creating like gaming content outside of Isaac? Is that something that you've explored in the past? What is kind of your approach on that?
I did the entirety of Portal 2 on stream.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I did that. But that game's really short, so that wasn't a big ask. I think the thing is with my content, I think at this point I'm pretty well within the Isaac niche. One thing that will probably eventually change is that my stream will probably become more me focused rather than necessarily Isaac focused.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's kind of what the underexplained series is going to kind of try to be about. It's like, yes, it is Isaac, but it's really just about me talking to a camera and talking with chat for an extended period of time. It's more of a just chatting stream than it is an Isaac stream, if I'm going to be completely honest. And I think that a lot of the people who are like longtime viewers in my community really enjoy that, but it is hard to pick up new watchers when you're doing that unless you're already big. So that's why I still kind of focus it around Isaac. At least the plan is to eventually like branch into that space, but it's kind of complicated to talk about that, and I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard part with, I think also just being like a variety streamer as a small like content creator is, it's very difficult to become big and successful off of that, right? You look at even the biggest names nowadays, they all started with a specific game or genre that they stuck to, and just as they developed as a creator were able to branch out into more stuff. I think like Super TF is a great example where I played Overwatch for years. I was a GM top 500 player for a long time. Loved that game to death. But like Super, I mean, he almost exclusively made Overwatch content for the longest time, retired out of being a professional, and then started doing variety stuff. And it exploded and became one of the most, subscribed channels on Twitch. Northern Lion, another great example, pretty much started his career on Isaac and now is an insanely large creator in the space that does primarily variety. And of course, us Isaac creators love it when he's in the Isaac category, right? Every once in a while, where we look at Isaac and it's like, why do we have 1 million viewers on Isaac right now? It's just because Northern Lion's there, right?
And you just pray that one day he raids your channel. And he you pray.
Yeah, right. But it's funny that you kind of mentioned that where you're well into the Isaac niche is, I think it's definitely good to start somewhere and then branch out, especially once you have that large enough core to be able to be like, hey, no matter what game I play and no matter what I'm doing, I know that I'm gonna have this many people in my chat. And I think that's a good feeling to know that no matter what you do and what content create, that you have those core people that watch your content for sure. And it seems like you have that. I feel like anytime I'm in your chat, it's to say you always, on top of all the new people that you get, you always have the same 5 to 10 people that are just always active chatters.
Yeah. I those people really make it happen, I think, is how I think of it. Like, those people, without them, none of this would exist.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have any motivation to make the content I do in any capacity, let alone as long as I've been making it. Channel's been going on for a little over a year now, I think. I don't know if it's a full year. I don't know what my channel anniversary is. I don't I don't ascribe to dates like that. I've never been good at remembering them. It's been magical having this community start to form.
Yeah, and watching it in real time is also great, right? Like, and you even mentioned it in your Discord, just how much that's grown and how that's become active as of late, and just like it's cool to see, people that you watch names scroll by on like a Twitch chat, but then also see them as real people in a medium that's not just Twitch or YouTube. And that's always a cool thing is seeing, you know, your community Discord, regardless of what creator you are, just kind of start to expand and seeing that grow. It's definitely a good feeling to curate that and watch that happen for sure. But I guess kind of continuing with the content creation side of things. So are you a full-time creator? Do you do work outside of streaming?
So I'm not a full-time creator. I mostly work outside of streaming as I'm trying to work towards an education degree. I'm looking to work in special education, which I'm really excited about. I've worked with kids on the spectrum for a long period of time. Working with for teaching verbal skills and things of that sort. But in the meantime, I'm doing part-time jobs while I kind of work through my education, and then streaming has become like an actual part-time job for me. I make about as much streaming as I do from like a 15 to 20 hour a week part-time job, which has been really fantastic. And it's not a ton of money, but it's enough to pay some bills. It's enough to continue doing it and not feel like I'm just treading water.
Yeah, and when did I guess to add to that, and I know that, you know, you're not a full-time content creator yet. I'm gonna throw that yet out there, right? Throw that into the ether. But at what point did you realize, like, hey, you know, I am making some money off of this? Like you mentioned, like I can use this as like a secondary source of income. When did that kind of like dawn on you?
So it started to become a reality late last year. And then like as I started getting paid by YouTube and Twitch, again, Twitch, I got paid frequently for balloons because it was a completely underserved community. And if you know Aliens Rock, that's what he started doing, things of that sort. But it's just like, it's funny to get back into it where I'm just like, all right, I'm creating content, I'm getting paid again. It's a bizarre feeling. It's really strange. I'm gonna be honest, like the concept that I'm playing a game and people are paying a fee to watch me. I'm just like, it's almost confusing. I'm just like, well, why are you here? What have I done?
But I have that same mentality where like somebody will, you know, subscribe or like donate or something like that, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, it's like, you don't have to do that, right? Like I'm not doing this like to become a job, right? Like I'm doing this because I enjoy doing it, and just me getting paid on the side is just like an extra bonus. It's funny. That's not me telling everyone to stop doing that. I just want to make that clear, right? If you want to subscribe, by all means, go ahead. But it's funny that
hit that like, comment, and subscribe.
Hit
that like, comment.
Like, comment, subscribe. Sticker on the screen, just right here. Click on it. You know, click the bell. Everything that everyone says. You know, it's just it's a funny feeling, because I definitely know what you mean. With just like, it sometimes doesn't feel real when you look in chat. You see someone. It's like, oh, you know, gifted 10 subs, and it's like that's $50. You don't have to do that. Like that's not but it's a good feeling.
I've learned a lot of like different currencies that I didn't know the names of because of that. I'm like, oh, thank you for the Norwegian crowns.
Right.
I didn't know what this was 3 months ago, but I appreciate you nonetheless.
It's funny that I don't, and for me, like I stream on the later side, even for like NA viewers, right? Like people in our like time zone, because I usually stream around 7 p.m. like Eastern Standard Time, and I get chatters from Europe all the time, and they're like, yeah, it's 3 a.m. here, and I'm like, what are you doing up? Like, why are you? And I guess that like you fall into that niche sometimes where you do end up falling into that weird time zone where it's like, yeah, you do have those night owls that are going to be up at 3-4 in the morning that are looking for Isaac content, and they just happen to stumble upon my channel. And you probably get that sometimes too, where especially with the time that you stream, that you probably hit a lot of the people that are going on like lunch breaks for work, and they're like, hey, I got 30-45 minutes, let me go watch some Isaac content. Oh, SacredHearts is streaming right now, let me go sit and watch their stuff for 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting because I originally started like streaming earlier in the day for European viewers specifically, because I was like, this is it's completely underserved as a community, that like European viewers, specifically like English content. Like there's a lot of European Isaac streamers who stream in Spanish or stream in German or stream in French, but there's basically nobody on that speaks in English at this time of day, or at that time of day. And so it's really interesting, like a significant portion of my community is like teenage European kids.
Yeah, it's funny like how that works and how you can cultivate that community just because of the time that you stream. So yeah, so did you choose your like time slot like for convenience of your schedule, or were you trying to hit that like less explored like viewer base?
It's a combination of both. Originally, when I was like streaming first with this channel, I was at 10 a.m. For me time, so 3 hours later than I do now, which was a very different and very contested spot in the Isaac community. Because Matt is streaming at that time, Vic is streaming at that time, Bagel is streaming at that time. There's so many other content creators that I could list, but like those are obviously the main ones. And so as I moved earlier in the day, I found that like I'd pick up stragglers from people who want to watch Isaac content, but there's nobody streaming.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so I'm just gonna go earlier. And then it kept getting better. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go earlier. And then it kept getting better. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna be up at 6 a.m. every morning. Sure, that's fine.
Yeah, it's.
And now yeah, it's great. Now every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I go for a run before I stream you, and I'm just like getting into these habits that I'm just like, it's just amazing.
Yeah,
it's really weird.
I would say that I think the hardest part for streaming in those less like viewer focused times is that the chances of you getting rated or having like larger, even just like even for us, like when we were scheduling this, like between the two, like it, we had to kind of schedule it a few days out in advance, and we had to change times a few times to try to figure it out. That if you're streaming at those separate times, you don't always get those opportunities to like build that community with the larger people, and then hope to God that I hope Vic Fist raised me with 400 viewers, right, kind of thing. And it just
I think so. That kind of like led me to YouTube is what really that comes down to. Like I started on Twitch and I was like, there's no way to gain traction right now. That doesn't exist. So I was like, okay, let's start making shorts on YouTube. Let's start making videos on YouTube. Originally, it was just long forms. If you go back to my earliest stuff, it's just like a bunch of long form videos. If we go all the way, there's 102 long videos on my short channel. Jesus Christ. It's like my first video got 16 views, 4 likes, and 0 comments. And then I was like, there's no space for like long form unedited Isaac content. Let's try shorts, and that worked out a lot better. And then I like moved into the YouTube shorts streaming space, which I know you're in as well. And there's something about the YouTube short streaming space where you just like people just pop in
all the time.
People have never heard of you and they'll just pop in. And because of that, for a while I was averaging like 50 people in a stream on YouTube, and I was like, this is nuts. I don't even know how to manage this. And as I stopped like uploading as many shorts, that like lessened, because you got to be uploading daily shorts or else YouTube doesn't like you as much. But yeah, I think that's what YouTube was for me. It was just like a chance for my content to be seen and my personality to be seen as like, and like now as I have 9 or 10 people in chat, people will pop in randomly on Twitch, rather than like when you have 3 or 4 people are like, who is this? Why would I join this stream? There's no activity in chat. Whereas now I have a fairly active chat, and people are like, oh, this is a conversation I can join, which I think is a big deal. I've talked with some people about like a self-sustaining chat before, which I think is like a chat moving so quickly, people having conversations in chat so quickly that there's like anybody who comes in, no matter what is going on screen, is going to have something to engage with.
And that was, we have very similar experiences with, why we moved to like YouTube and like creating content. Is I was streaming on Twitch for years and just like not really gaining any viewers, just kind of doing it because. And I'm blessed in that my wife is a marketing professional, right? So like that's what she has a degree in, that's what a lot of her work experience is in. So she knows how to kind of manipulate social medias in a way where you can gain traction very quickly. And that was why I developed an upload schedule and a streaming schedule, is because of that same thing where, I started streaming on YouTube. And it's funny that a lot of those people on YouTube will like start watching, get attached to your chat, and then want to see like the full screen of it. So they'll transition over to Twitch. And then all of a sudden my Twitch viewership is doubling because people from YouTube are transitioning over. And it's something that every big creator says, and you'll hear Ludwig, I don't watch his content much, but some of his stuff does get tossed in my YouTube shorts, where he talks all the time. He's like, man, if you want to grow on Twitch, you have to start a YouTube. You have to create videos, shorts, long form, whatever it is. You have to be able to get your name out there from multiple avenues. Otherwise, you'll never grow as a creator. It's just, you won't. It's so hard. And that's what I love about Twitch too, or about YouTube, is YouTube does a really good job at pushing your content if it's what people want to see. But Twitch, on the other hand, trying to get on the main page of Twitch, especially as a gaming creator, is you can't do it. It just won't happen unless you somehow get partnered and all that. But getting to that point to begin with is just a slog and a half.
Odds are not in your favor.
Yeah, it's really not. And like getting discovered on YouTube is just so much, I think, easier. And then I went from uploading YouTube content. I was like 100 subscribers at the beginning of this year, and now in a month and a half, I've hit 1,000. Right, like just the rapid growth that you see just from having like an upload schedule. And I'm even looking at you. I think when I was looking at your channel 2 weeks ago, I think you were at just above 5,000. Now you're at 5.3. Right, like even in like a span of 2 weeks, you're gaining hundreds of subscribers just from the streams and content that you're throwing out there, which is massive.
I mean, a lot of those are from that one we mentioned earlier, the best seeds in Isaac. I have like that short alone has gained me almost 800 subscribers.
Yeah,
and it just never stops. It never stops.
It's funny that like you get videos like that, where like I have videos that aren't quite up to that almost 1 million, but that still get 10,000 views pretty much every other day, and I'm just gaining 10 subscribers a week off of just this video I posted 2 months ago, right? Like it's funny how that works.
No, I was just like, I found that like on YouTube, as much as it is important to upload daily, I found that like uploading twice a week, but like slightly higher quality has been a lot better for me personally. And yeah,
even my shorts, even my minute, like 60 to 90 second shorts take 2 to 3 hours of research and editing and all that. Like it's not something that I think a lot of people realize, is when you have those highly edited content. And I think that's kind of where the Isaac community has slowly transitioned towards over the last couple of years. Is if you would have asked the Isaac community what it was like 5 to 7 years ago, yeah, it was the full length hour and a half long videos of people doing runs. But I think Lazy Map Man did a lot to kind of move Isaac into a different, I don't want to say aged, because that seems extreme, but like towards that super highly edited entertainment value, bite-sized 20 to 25 minute videos. Like I think him and Huts, I think, did a lot for the community to really push Isaac towards that as a kind of as a game in general with creation. But I prefer that, right? I like making that highly edited content. As easy as it is to, record an hour and a half and just upload that footage raw, like no problems whatsoever. There's a sense of accomplishment when you sit down for a couple of hours, edit out a 25-minute video, and you're like, man, I really like the way this turned out.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy those, but I'm just like, oh man, sometimes that editing process is such a slog.
Yeah, I know my video that's going out tomorrow, which is not tomorrow for this video, but if you're viewing this, it's probably already out. That took me, I think, like a month to fully edit, and not because of it was difficult to edit, but because I didn't want to, right? Like sitting down for 4 hours because the recording itself was like 2.5 hours long because of just the topic of the video, and just sitting down and rewatching my own play for 2 hours to edit it down is just a miserable experience.
I recently did Isaac Dress to Impress. I don't know if you were privy to that.
I think I think I was in the background. I was lurking for
yeah,
because you streamed it, right?
Yeah, I streamed it, and there were it was 9 other creators there, and it was chaos. And I got all the footage from that, and then I put it together, and I was like, this is 33 hours of footage that I would have to edit down, and I straight up had a panic attack.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm breathing heavily. I've never had a heart rate elevated looking at so much footage on DaVinci Resolve before, but now I know what that feels like.
Because that's the one thing about Isaac content, especially, is you can take an hour and a half video run and cut it down to 20-25 minutes, because there's sometimes just so much dead time in like an Isaac run. And that's why streaming, it's great, is because you can fill that dead time with talking with chat and kind of, you know, if you're doing multiplayer, like talking with people in the background. That not every game struggle or suffers from that in the same way, but Isaac especially, where sometimes it just feels, it's like, oh, I'm an hour and a half into this run. I've used R key twice as Tainted Cain. Like, it's just, I am so over this, but I need to get completion marks. Like, it's that whole feeling. I guess a question that I ask a lot of creators, I don't know if I don't think I've asked this yet. Do you play with in-game music? Do you play with the actual, like, Isaac soundtrack, or do you usually play with your own music?
So that changed actually recently. Historically, yes, I have played with the in-game music on, but that changed recently because I got tired of hearing it. I had a small period where I was just playing whatever music I wanted to, and then I got a copyright warning from YouTube.
Yeah, sounds about right.
No, you can't do that. Kendrick Lamar is very copyrighted, and it's not. And I was like, well, shit. I listened to some BB No Money on stream, if you know that artist.
Yeah, I know they came out recently and said, like, hey, you know, content creators, as long as it's not like these specific songs, like, you know, take my discography and toss into all your videos.
Yeah, so I did that. That was fine. But then I was like, you know what? What's an easier way to do this? And then I just downloaded a million OSTs off of the Steam Workshop, and now I just have every run we get a randomized OST. So we have a number of them. So that the soundtracks I have on my OST that I listen to, I have Ocarina of Time, the Terraria Calamity mod, Earthbound, Neon Genesis Evangelion, Doom, Flash Isaac, Undertale, Toho Music, Deep Laboratories, and Anti-Birth. We try to keep it varied. I'm looking for more suggestions if people want to give them. Chat, if you have an OST you want to recommend me, please put them in the comments. Please, I need more. Give me them all.
I think one that I can kind of toss out here, and I'm sure you've heard it before, but the Hollow Knight OST, having that in the background, that's what I use as my background music in a lot of my shorts. Is a Dung Defender and the Hornet fight are like, they are just great songs for just like those minute and a half shorts. But the Hollow Knight OST, it's familiar. There's a lot of overlap between Hollow Knight players and Isaac players, so everyone's gonna know what it is. That's a great one to have in the background.
And it's cutesy and dark.
Yeah,
which is very
yeah, because I know for me, I'm the same way. After 2,000, like 2,500 hours in this game, I'm like, I'm tired of listening to the same 10 tracks, man. Like, I can't do it anymore.
No, I totally get that. But yeah, I don't know if you saw my Hear Me Out list, but Dung Defender's on there.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like that is a great addition to that list. Are we talking like Dung Defender or like White Defender, or both? Just,
I mean, if they wanna.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just a few more questions, then we'll hit the lightning round. Of course, the questions that every Isaac creator gets asked. But I know you've mentioned it on stream a few times. And I know we've talked about it a little bit. And I even think you mentioned it in kind of the last like podcasty style thing that you did. But why did you start creating Isaac content? Where did that interest come from?
So I alluded to it earlier when we were talking. But I started creating Isaac content because my partner looked over my shoulder while I was watching Sinvicta and was like, ooh, what's that game? That looks really interesting. And I let out like a massive sigh. I was just like, oh fuck, I am not ready to teach this game right now. And I was just like, this is The Binding of Isaac. It's a really hard game, I'm not very good at it, but I can certainly try to teach you. Are you sure you want that? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, I was hoping you said no. And so I spent about 1,000 hours, like between playing the 850 hours my first Dead God and another 150, maybe 200 hours of just researching and that kind of laid the basis for my like general knowledge of Isaac. And to teach her how to play the game. And then at the end of it, I was just like, I have so much knowledge, and for what now? And for what? And so I was just like, so I'm gonna start streaming this. And she was like, yeah, I thought that was the whole plan the whole time. And I was like, no, it wasn't.
Love that.
I was just doing this because you asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started, and then I really got into it. I really started enjoying teaching in general, and that's what kind of teaching Isaac actually pushed me towards teaching as a career overall. That's why I'm going into the career that I'm going. I think it's funny that like I always knew that I was going to be teaching in some capacity, but there's a lot of different ways I kind of ran from it in my personal life.
Right.
I did tutoring, I did verbal skills teaching, I did all sorts of other things besides actually teaching. And then the moment I started teaching legitimately in Isaac, where I was like basically teaching to a classroom of people watching my stream, I learned how much I loved it, and I was just like, oh, no, now I just gotta do it. Now I just gotta be a teacher. It's fine. So yeah, that's kind of how me being an Isaac content creator came about. I can't help but teach people things.
I know, like me, my job outside of content creation is I'm a safety and training specialist. So in the construction industry right now, but my job is I learned how to provide adult education, right? How to sit down with adults and how to train them and teach them about different things, right? And that, I think I've taken a lot of my skills from that and implemented it into my like Isaac content. But it's a very similar thing where it's just like teaching for me is just a passion, and like being able to implement that in a hobby is just such a good feeling, right? To be able to take something that you love doing and then also implement it into another thing that you love doing is just it's so fulfilling for sure. So I can definitely see where your enjoyment comes with that. And then kind of with that, with the content creation, what do you think is your biggest challenge when it comes to creating content?
Editing long form content. I love streaming, I love making shorts, but gun to my head, if I could choose not to make any form of content, I would just be like, please don't make me make long form content. Just give me an editor for free that just like edits down my VODs and like makes it interesting, adds edits. Like I'm just like, I can't do it. I can do it. And I try to every once in a while. Like every once in a while I'll upload like a long form video of just me playing a run. And I'll cut it down and do it a lot of that. Like I have one that I'm working on recently where I did, the brains challenge where you have 3 Bob's brains.
Yeah.
I went to Hush in that challenge.
I think I was watching that stream. Was that from Saturday?
It might have been. I'm just this week for sure. And I just did it, and I was just like, this is nuts. I had a fun time playing it. It's not very long, which is usually like the 3 things that I look for when I'm picking out a video to do it. Because like if it's over 45 minutes, I don't find it edits down well into a video.
Yeah.
But that's me.
Well, that was one thing. Is I remember a stream like when I was first getting all my unlocks on my second save file with Tainted Cane, and I was going through it, and part of me was like, this would make for a great video. About 20 minutes into it, and then after about the 2-hour mark of that run, I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm making this into a video. And in the video that I'll have coming out tomorrow at the time of this recording, it actually has to do with Red Key, so which is why the video is so long. So it's
Red Key's really good, but it will make your run last forever.
Yeah. So that was a slog to edit down, and I was somehow able to get it down to 25 minutes. But yeah, I'm kind of with you, where I wish that I could just get an editor, just be like, hey, edit this down to a comfortable 30 minutes. I'll go and do all the rest of the like special edits and all that other stuff. It's just like, just get it cut down.
See, that's funny. I'm so the opposite. I'm just like, I will get it down to 25 minutes. I want you to do the fancy things.
Right. I like doing the fancy side. Here's what we'll do. I'll send you my VODs and you cut it down, and then editing's just one of those things where the handshake right there. It's so funny that pretty much every content creator that I've talked to has had that same mentality, where it's just like editing long form videos is just so difficult, right? Especially when you have stuff outside of content creation that you do, like we have jobs and other things where it's like, when am I gonna find 5 hours out of my day to sit down and edit this down?
It's very rare.
Yeah, I honestly, I think that covers the bulk of my like in-depth questions. As I say, is we're an hour and 17 minutes into this recording. Time fucking flies. But yeah, I guess we'll go through the lightning round questions, just the ones that we get asked every single time a new player shows up. So of course is, how many hours do you have in Isaac?
Between research and playing the game, I have 3,500 hours, and then raw playtime, I have about 2,200.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds pretty common for anyone who has multiple dead gods. It's kind of sitting at that 2,000 to 3,000 hour range. What's your favorite item? What's just one that you see on a run, you're like, okay, this is gonna be the best run ever?
Curse of the Tower. Put some respect on its name.
Sounds about right. I think I heard you say the exact same thing in a stream earlier this week, where you ran into Curse of the Tower and you're like, Curse of the Tower, my beloved, and then someone said like it was an ass item, and your response was put some respect on its name, and it just, oh, that's good. That's funny.
I can't deal with disrespect to Curse of the Tower. It's so good.
That's how I feel with Monster's Lung. Monster's Lung is my favorite item. I love that item to death, but you're like, I don't like charge shots or whatever it is. I'm like, no, it's a skill issue. That's all that is.
You're weak-willed if you don't like charge shots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Brimstone. It's one of the best items of the game is a charge shot. All right, favorite character.
Tainted Forgotten. Because when you play it well, it is easily the fastest character in the game,
Yep.
and that makes it really fun to me. I played a streak with it at one point where I was doing this before Repentance Plus, so you couldn't get to Delirium consistently except through Hush, and I was doing a Delirium streak with it, and that was so much fun.
Yeah.
And especially since Tainted Forgotten, like the hardest boss for that character is Delirium because he's always teleporting around. So it's just like such a skill intensive, such a fun, such a satisfying streak, and I got up to like 35 on that streak, and it was really a good time.
Yeah, Tainted Forgotten is a character that I just don't have all that much experience in. That most people who do like that character often say like, yeah, fast character, great damage if you know what you're doing. You just got to know how to throw the skelly man properly.
Yeah. Way better with controller. Way better.
Yeah, you were mentioning that, and I have a controller next to me because that's what my wife plays on. So anytime that we co-op, but I've been in mouse and keyboard for years, so I just learned Isaac on mouse, or I learned it initially on controller, but when I transferred over to mouse and keyboard, I was like, okay, it's time for me to learn. And the primary reason as to why is because my old streaming partner that I mentioned earlier, Zesty, they only knew how to play on controller, so I had to learn how to play on mouse and keyboard because this was at the time the only you could only have the keyboard input and then a controller input. You couldn't have multiple of each. So it was, I just forced myself to learn it, and I've just kept it ever since, and that was like 4 or 5 years ago at this point. And I was already playing keyboard with other games, but
no, I definitely play keyboard with other games. I get that. Yeah. It's just Isaac and the angle control of Tainted Forgotten is way better on controller.
All right, favorite boss.
Mother. I like the story behind Mother. I like the fact that it comes from the Anti-Birth mod. I like the story of the Witness and what that like brought with it. I also think it's an extremely skill testing boss in both. Like, you have to remember to save your keys and save your bombs for the doors, and you also have to just play against a boss that's very patterned, but very tight patterns. So you have to play the patterns well. I think that's really interesting.
What about your favorite enemy?
My favorite enemy is the Minecraft spider from Fiend Folio. It's as rare as Henry in Baby Isaac, so you'll never see it. But it's really cute. It has the same effect as the spider in Minecraft, where if you're at like half a heart, it can't actually kill you. So it's like really flavorfully done. I don't even play Minecraft. I just think it's really cute.
Last but not least, your favorite challenge.
My favorite challenge is Red Redemption.
Okay.
I really like the way it makes you have to like relearn how map generation works, because if you look at Red Redemption maps, they're actually roughly in shape of a normal Isaac map, but you kind of have to navigate in between those rooms. And I like the way it really tests how well you know your Isaac mapping. So I think one of the hardest things to learn, and one of the most important things to learn, is like the general vibe of a map, so that you can navigate to a boss without having to waste a million hours.
For sure. And it's funny, especially you kind of learn mapping too if you have a blue map, right? Because a lot of the time your super secret rooms tend to be around the boss. Not always, but like that's the general rule of thumb. So it's funny that like when I have blue map, I'm like, okay, I know where the boss is, or I have a general idea of where I need to go to get to the boss.
Who needs compass?
Yeah, who needs compass? You got blue map, right? Yeah, I think that covers all of the questions that I have for you. Do you have any other just, Isaac or content related just tidbits that you want to throw in here at the end?
Come watch me play the Isaac's Heart Gauntlet on stream. I'm starting that, where I'm playing through every single character in Isaac to a random boss each, deathless all the way through, with Isaac's Heart as like immediately given to me as soon as I start the run.
And is that going to be like an every Friday thing, or is that just going to be however long it takes?
Every Friday until I beat it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I guess we'll kind of end off with where can all of these viewers find your content?
You can find me at twitch.com/SacredHearts. Sorry, mispronounced my own name almost there. SacredHearts. You can find me at youtube.com/@SacredHearts. You can also find me at TikTok as SacredHearts. Like, I am everywhere on most platforms except for like Insta and X and Blue Sky. I should get a Blue Sky, honestly, but that doesn't happen yet.
Yeah, I'll make sure all those are linked down in the description below. So if any of y'all want to go check out their content, you can make sure to click on any of those links and go drop a follow, go drop a subscription, and yeah, definitely check them out when they stream. Is it daily from 7 to 10?
It's Monday through Friday, 7 to 10. On the weekend, I go and play Ultimate Frisbee.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So yeah, it's 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So go check them out on then.
Nice to meet you. Really meet you properly.
Right.
I know you've been in my, but like meet you.
For sure. Yeah, and thank you for your time. And yeah, I look forward to collabing with you. And oh, actually, before we end, I do want to announce the our next collab. So I know from when this video gets uploaded, the following Saturday, so that's March 8th. We are going to be doing a Shot Saturday together. So if you're familiar with my content, yeah, drinking, right? If you're familiar with my content, you know that every Saturday I do a drinking game to the Binding of Isaac. So SacredHearts Hearts is going to be joining me for that Shot Saturday. So this video is not only a great interviewing opportunity, but is also an ad for our collab here in the future. So yeah, go check that out. Not only check out their content, but check out our collab here in the near future. So yeah, with that said, thank you so much for doing this interview, and thank you to everybody else who's watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.